No expert, but I seen this coming months ago, and so did your fucking governments. You still worried about inflation? Don't worry. Now we get to deal with that. Let's talk about it. So the Bank of Canada hikes interest rates to 3.25%. Now that's supposed to help, but right now we can't afford food, we can't afford gas, now we can't afford our house. Fucking awesome. But it gets even better than that. Recession? I don't know. Let's look at it. Here we have the difference between a recession and a depression. Let's look. So we'll start off looking at the bottom two. A recession can be limited geographically like a single country. A depression can have global reach. Next, we'll look at the bottom right corner. Results are short run, hence impact can be managed. Now, here's the big one. Recession, economy can recover. Depression, needs intervention before economy recovers. Kind of like the Bank of Canada stepping in. Let's look back at 1918. War, pandemic, depression. Kind of similar, isn't it? So what do you think? We're heading for a recession or depression? Let me know in the comments. Follow for prepping tips.
That time. If we do have another Great Depression, it's going to look very different. And there's a few reasons for that. And an obvious one is just that our living standards are like default higher. Like we have a surplus of stuff because of manufacturing and global supply chains. And we're a consumerist country. Like we have consumed so much stuff in the past like 100 or so years that even if things do get more expensive and things stop getting imported to the US, we'll still have a bunch of items and necessities to trade amongst ourselves and to use that we bought like 5 years ago that still work. So our living standards are going to be higher. And besides that, we have flushing toilets and running water, and those aren't going to shut off because the stock market crashes. We also have social safety nets and laws protecting labor that didn't exist back then. Like you couldn't collect unemployment during the Great Depression, but you can today. And like, yes, social programs are subject to change, and like we're starting to cut a lot of them, and Social Security is projected to start running low on funds in the future, but we still have a more mature government and mature economy that is better prepared to deal with that kind of crisis. The racial and gender discrimination and resulting outcomes was also worse in the Great Depression than it would be if it happened today, because during the Great Depression, Black Americans experienced 50% unemployment and white Americans were at 25%. Today, the employment ratio for white to Black Americans is 2 to 1, and it's pretty much stagnated since the 1970s, but it's still a better place to start out from than what people were dealing with in the 1930s. Women also have better career opportunities with like better paying jobs and more financial autonomy, and we know that there's more women in college today than there are men. So the outcomes are going to be different there. It's just hard to know like whether or not it would be better or worse like the next Great Depression, because the world is so different than how it was 100 years ago. But I'm curious to know if you guys like agree, disagree, have anything to add.
So this is crazy, guys. Legendary investor Ray Dalio said that America could be in store for something worse than a recession, essentially pretty much saying a Great Depression is on the horizon. Let's break this down. So Ray Dalio said he's worried about something worse than a recession if President Donald Trump does not properly handle tariffs and other economic policies. Dalio said, I think that right now we are at a decision-making point and very close to a recession, and I'm worried about something worse than a recession if this isn't handled well. He said we have a breaking down of the monetary order. We are having profound changes in our domestic order, and we're having profound changes in the world order. Such times are very much like the 1930s, which you guys probably know what happened back then. He said, I've studied history and this repeats over and over again. And he also talked about U.S. debt, creditors, and he warned recently about what he said was the unsustainable growth of U.S. debt and creditors such as China holding too much of it, as well as the decline in U.S. manufacturing, leading to a reliance on other countries for necessary items. And Dalio essentially urged members of Congress to pledge to reduce the budget deficit by a few percentage points to 3% of the GDP. And he said if they don't, we're going to have a supply-demand problem for debt at the same time as we have these other problems, and the results of that will be worse than a normal recession. Maybe a Great Depression. Is that what he's hinting towards? What do you guys think? Follow along for more.
There's been a lot of chatter online about a recession and what looks like the next Great Depression. And I'll be honest, man, I'm like genuinely really scared. So here's my deal. I'm 22 years old. I am just out of school and I'm getting ready to move across the country to start my own business. Right now I work for my dad, and so far with the way things are going, I won't have to worry about a job. But now that I'm not in school and like I'm a grown man now, I'm trying to start my life. What am I supposed to do? What are the rest of us supposed to do? What are any of us supposed to do right now? I was just at the gym. They have, the news feed on the TV screen or whatever. Bro, the numbers on everything are going down. And I try to take a step back because the media likes to sensationalize things, make it look worse than it actually is. But it looks really, really bad. And I have things pretty well planned out. I have all the steps laid out, every goalpost I got to meet, but it looks terrifying. And I could imagine half the people who are about to graduate, because what does the future look like? Genuinely, I would like to know what's next. Lately,
After tax, $2.96. $3 for one potato. Do you know how much a small French fry for McDonald's costs? I'll give you a second to think and have a guess. After tax, $2.96. $3 for one potato. Do you know how much a small French fry for McDonald's?
Since the Second Great Depression, here is the literal proof that we are about to experience the Second Great Depression in American history. The chart on the left is 1929, when we had the Great Depression. The chart on the right is 2024. They are literally identical. We had this little wedge pattern and then a huge run up before the Great Depression. Right now, we have this little wedge formation and then a huge run up. And right now we are in similar situations where banks are pretty much insolvent. But things are very different this time around. See, in this time period, you couldn't bail out and just print money. We were on a gold standard and there was no central bank that could just bail you out. Where right now, if things were to start going down, we would flood the system with trillions and trillions of dollars and prop up this market. This is called stagflation, when things are actually crashing, but you just have so much inflation to prop everything up. So don't sell anything just yet. I still think Bitcoin might be a good hedge for this. But be prepared. I think we see one more big run up before a big crash. Let me know what you think about this, and let me know what you think of the economy right now. And is Trump gonna end up bailing us out and turn on the money printers? Let me know.
Oh, I hate the news. It's always negative stuff on the news. Guys, we have to hone in, okay? Some serious stuff is getting ready to come down the pipelines. It's been cooking for years now, and it's finally ready to boil over, okay? So for you guys who don't know who Jerome Powell is, he is the chair of the Federal Reserves for the United States of America, okay? He kind of is the person who decides what we're going to do as far as interest rates and things like that go. Now, he does take information and things like that into consideration from, a group of individuals in the Senate Bank and things like that, and other smart economists. But ultimately, he, along with a small other group of individuals, decide the state of America as it relates to our finances. So what does this mean? He says that we have more pain to come and the potential loss of 2 million jobs. When he was asked by an individual about what would you tell 2 million Americans who are about to lose their jobs due to the decisions that you're going to make, he says that is a consequence of trying to curb inflation, because inflation is so high. So we need to make sure that the labor force is not as strong as it is, meaning that unemployment is going to be through the roof by another 4%. So, guys, I understand where he's coming from. There's around 300 plus Americans, but those 2 million people who are going to lose their jobs, guys, I think it's going to be more than that. I think that he speaks as a politician and someone who's very, very diplomatic. His responses are very diplomatic. And it's the perfect way to be if you're in politics. But, a true American face is going to want to know what's really going on and how are we going to be affected? Well, interest rates curving and probably going to be much higher than the normal 20 to 22%. It's going to cause a downpour, guys, when it comes to stocks and other markets. And as you all can already see, mass sell-offs are taking place. Every market is bearish right now, which is good for an investor like myself because I want to buy. And I'm hoping that this lasts for another 2 years so I can buy into my positions, solidify my positions. And it looks good for me. But for people who aren't investors, guys, and people who are riding out this market, hoping that it turns around immediately so they can become multimillionaires, guys, calm down. Calm down. Maybe you all already have your positions and your bags full, but people like me, average Americans, I don't. So I'm ready to stockpile my positions and really solidify them this next 2 years. I think we're going to be in a bear market in crypto for the next 2 years. A lot of people think that the bull run's going to be next June, next July. I don't see that. I don't. Jerome Powell said in the first meeting, and we're going to have another meeting at the end of this month as well. So I'm looking really forward to seeing what he's going to be talking about then. But on the first meeting, he said that this could last up to 2026 to 2028 before we really start to see a 2% interest, back to the 2%. So I don't think that that's going to happen anytime soon, guys. Again, it's very important that we, become financially smart for ourselves, for our families, our future kids, etc., guys, because the investments and the way that we manage our money today will allow us to be much more successful in making more money in the future. Now, if you're okay with working a standard 9-to-5 job, which a lot of people are, that's fine. But for people who are investing and they want to live their lives a little bit more comfortably, the more assets you have, the more money you have, the more comfortably you can live. So even if you're making $40,000 a year and you have a security blanket of about $500,000 as a security blanket, that's roughly around 20 something thousand dollars of extra money that you'll have off interest of $500,000. And, that's 40,000 or 45,000 that you were making plus 20,000. So now your net worth is increased and you have an additional $20,000 to $18,000 that you can bring into your actual annual income. And that's how generational wealth is made, guys. You don't make $500,000 and spend $500,000. You make $500,000 and you maintain $500,000. Yeah, you may pay off all your debt and things like that, and you may dig into the resources maybe in like every 4 or 5 months you take a vacation or something off of the 20K. But that's how you leave that rotational income in. And then you invest it into things that can get you compounding interest. But that's a conversation for a whole nother time. What I'm telling you guys is this. Look, a lot of people say it too. When you make your first 6 figures, your first 100K, guys, that's when the roadmap to success is really laid down in front of you. We need to pay close attention to these next meetings, these upcoming meetings, guys, because it's going to really, really usher in how a lot of us investors are going to be spending our money in the next 2 years. And yes, there's a lot of pain to come. There are probably going to be a lot more than just 2 million people losing their jobs. I think that we're heading towards the worst recession that this country has ever seen. That's basically going to be a depression, okay? In a modern day depression. We're not going to be standing in lines with bowls and trying to eat rice and porridge and potato soup and all that. But I think a modern day depression is where we're headed. They just don't want to call it that because, America is the greatest country here on earth, alleged. And we don't want to lose trust, around the world. We default on our national debt or, if they do that, then it's over for us. It is a depression. But if they raise the debt ceiling, the 2 million people are going to be out of their jobs regardless. So it's like literally in between a rock and a hard place kind of scenario. And at that point, what do you go with? And Jerome Powell is actually, very inquisitive, trying to figure out what would happen if we were to default on our loans. And it was very interesting to see how many people around the entire world actually rely on the American dollar. There are a ton of investors who invest in the United States Treasury. And there are a ton of investors around the world, Middle East, India, France, Asia, China, that invest in American properties and in the United States Treasury. So it's a lot, guys. It's a lot. It's a lot to think about. It's a lot to wrap your head around. But once you understand financing, you can truly start to say, okay, I need to put my money into an asset quickly that is at a very low price so I can capitalize on this. And that's what we need to be doing, guys. So all this year, guys, follow me on my journey. Let me know what you guys think.